Hey everybody, it's Atheist for the Cause here, and I wanted to give a little opinion piece here about the Jeff Sessions hearing that just happened. Effectively, not too much happened, and that's good news for President Trump and, Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Um, I think, one of my biggest takeaways from it was that they brought up the fact that uh, when Comey gave his press conference on Hillary Clinton and whether she should or shouldn't be prosecuted, that basically broke some guidelines that, a way that an FBI director typically doesn't act, and that some people actually thought that Comey was encouraged to do that by Loretta Lynch, so that to protect Loretta Lynch, because she was going on, she was in her own having her own issues with the campaign, and where Bill Clinton met her on the tarmac, and it seemed that she was operating for Hillary Clinton. And it turns out that they pointed out that in Comey's interview that it was actually his own idea. He wasn't encouraged by Loretta Lynch, and that's part of the justification for firing him. So on one hand, I think that was one of the best points brought up in favor of Trump and his side, but opposing his side, it's also kind of like it's the biggest problem, I think, in Jeff Sessions' testimony, where it did make him look political, where some Democrats brought up, hey, you said at the time this was a good move by Comey, and then you come out and say that he should be fired because of it. Makes him look political, makes him look partisan, and it makes the justification for Trump firing Comey to be, it looks like Sessions' recommendation was created just to help justify what Trump was already going to do, and that's exactly how the Democrats tried to paint it. But in the end, I think Sessions had a pretty good response, where he was like, well, after we got away from the situation and thought about it and talked about it, it was the wrong move by Comey, and that was about the best save he could have there. And overall, I think the Democrats failed to paint Trump as, acting on his own without recommendation. They tried to make it seem like Sessions was giving this recommendation to justify something that was going to happen anyways, and I don't think they succeeded. But overall, that would be a minor point anyways. The conversation didn't get moved. We're still where we were. If anything, there have been aspects of the investigation into, possible collusion or whatever, all the Russian stuff, all of the possible Trump wrongdoing, it's all gone away for the most part. I mean, the conversations are changing, I would say, and the fact that these points are always changing shows that nothing is really sticking for the Democrats, and that's good news for Trump. So overall, I think this was another good day for President Trump, and a Republican did a very good job pointing out we've been at this for, we meaning the Senate has been at it for months. This investigation for months. The FBI was investigating for months. The Senate found nothing so far. the FBI found nothing and actually cleared Trump of wrongdoing and others of wrongdoing. So, and that, Trump was actually never even being investigated. So a lot of those possible leads have evaporated. So I don't know where the Democrats really go from here. I think they're really being, their narrative is really being shut down, and it's going to look more and more partisan, and they'll have a media spin, and their hardcore followers are going to probably continue to follow them. But remember that the Democrats have a bit of a coalition too. The progressives and the liberals are pretty much at a civil war right now, and we've seen progressives like H.A. Goodman, Tim Black, and others start to move away from Hillary Clinton, and the Democrats and are really criticizing them for all this Trump collusion narrative, and they think it's the wrong way to go. And I think you're going to have more Bernie Sanders defectors that say, hey, it's time to move on. The longer this goes on with no evidence or very little evidence of anything, then the more Bernie Sanders supporters are going to push for a change in strategy. So, and I think this looks bad to, the independents. I think this looks bad on behalf of the Democrats. To the, slightly left people even, the toss-up people that are pretty close to the middle, even the people that are slightly right that might switch over to the left from time to time. I think all of those people in the middle are really looking at this like, wow, we were really sold that Trump did something really wrong, and these are some pretty serious allegations. And in the end, they're not really giving us much. They're fishing for all kinds of stuff, but they're not coming up with anything. So, and then it looks bad. People have a tolerance for some partisanship, but when you start actually making allegations against people of wrongdoing that would potentially put people in prison for a long time, that I think that crosses a line for a lot of people. So, and this is just shutting the government down. It's just being obstructionist. This is why the people hate Congress. The Congress hasn't been doing much of anything, and they really need to get healthcare or something passed, because everything that's been happening has been Trump doing it through executive order. That was pretty much the same with Obama, where Obama had to do executive order after executive order, and that's why Congress has such a low approval rating. And they're doing all these hearings that aren't going to go anywhere. They just, there was actually Russian meddling, undeniably, in terms of, they tried to have some influence, and they hacked into the registration database, but they didn't really do anything. They just hacked in where there's information about people, basically lists of people. And outside of that, though, like, they didn't change votes. They didn't really have an impact on the election in the sense of direct vote changes. So, and the problem here is that, if they can do it this time, they could potentially do it in the future. So we want to figure out what exactly Russia did and try to close these loopholes. But, these senators, especially Democrats, aren't asking about it at all. Like, and they're just bringing up, allegations against Trump, and then Republicans are on the defensive, trying to help out the witness, in this case Jeff Sessions, trying to show why what the Democrats are bringing up is total bullshit. And, a couple-hour hearing, and what did we get? The one thing I forgot to mention, too, is they were all pushing, in the beginning, they were all pushing this narrative that, and I guess it lasted throughout most of the hearing, that Jeff Sessions was refusing to answer questions and he was obstructing. But I don't think, or he was stonewalling, that was a term that was actually used. I don't think that's going to convince people, to be honest. Like, I think people understand that there are some things that are confidential and that are private conversations that simply can't, it would be inappropriate to talk about them. And not in the sense that inappropriate is an excuse, in the sense that, if you have a couple, and Jeff Sessions described this to a good enough extent, that if, say he's talking with the president, you've got a couple other advisors talking with the president, and they could all be, bringing up the ideas, and they could have disagreements amongst each other and stuff. You don't want those conversations all aired out in public, because that would be very problematic. It would make it look like there are multiple, positions within the executive branch, and it would make it look like, the president and his cabinet aren't on the same wavelength, and it would really discourage people within the cabinet from speaking freely. And so of course you're not gonna go out and in an open hearing talk about all of these things. They're private, they're meant to be private, and they should remain private. And but that they really pushed that, especially in the beginning, and then throughout. It kind of seemed like towards like the middle end of it, they started to realize like this isn't really catching on, and they started to move on to other things. I think Senator Sessions, or Attorney General Sessions, excuse me, really diffused that, and he actually got quite animated at one point to say that people are accusing him of lying and stonewalling and all of that, and he did a good job explaining why he's not. He's answering the questions, and they brought up, like, one Republican brought up Eric Holder would do the same thing, and other witnesses are doing the same thing because this is long-standing policy. And one Democrat tried to be a smartass and said, "Is this written down somewhere?" And actually Jeff Sessions was like, "Yeah, I believe so." So now they're asking him to give the actual long-standing policy that's written down to the committee. But overall, this was supposed to be a Senate Intelligence Committee. All it turned out to be was another witch hunt, trying to find collusion or some wrongdoing of Trump. And again, they failed. So we'll see what happens from here on out. But that's all I have for you for now. Sorry, there's not really too much here. But I mean, when they're going over the same stuff over and over and over, you've already heard all this stuff. And the problem is there's just nothing here. So I guess one last piece is they said that this investigation is going to continue for at least a couple more weeks. There might not be another open hearing, at least for a while, but they're going to continue to have conversations in a closed setting. So there's that. But hopefully the Congress can move on to bigger and better things at some point. I'll talk to you guys later.